You're not going to believe this, but Johnny Depp is officially back. After years of silence, courtroom battles, endless headlines, and whispers that his career might be over, Depp is stepping back into the world that made him a legend. And he's not doing it quietly. He's doing it with one of the boldest, most visionary filmmakers alive, Terry Gilliam. In this video, we're going to uncover why this comeback is so much more than just another role. We'll explore the hidden history between Depp and Gilliam, the parallels between their struggles, and the powerful symbolism of their reunion. You'll also learn how Depp's fans, who never gave up on him, have played a surprising role in making this moment possible. And most importantly, we'll dive into why critics are calling this the beginning of something bigger, what some are already calling the Depp Renaissance. So stick with us until the very end, because the story of Johnny Depp's return isn't just about Hollywood. It's about resilience, redemption, and what it means to rise again when the world counts you out. Welcome to Story Spot, where we dive deep into the untold truths and hidden stories behind the headlines. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a moment of these powerful stories. When you look back at the arc of Johnny Depp's career, there's a point where the spotlight dimmed, where the magic that once defined his every appearance seemed to slip into the shadows. For decades, Depp had been untouchable, an actor who could transform into anyone, a star who redefined what it meant to take risks in Hollywood. But then came a period when the roles stopped making headlines and the conversation around him shifted entirely. Suddenly, it wasn't about Edward Scissorhands, Jack Sparrow, or his daring collaborations with visionary directors. Instead, it was about courtrooms, rumors, and speculation that seemed endless. Hollywood is a place that thrives on momentum. One day you're at the center of it all, and the next you can feel the industry pulling away. That's exactly what began to happen to Johnny. Studios grew quiet. Scripts that once would have landed on his desk with eagerness were now rerouted to safer choices. Projects slipped away, sometimes without explanation, other times with a clear subtext that he had become too risky. In a business built on image, perception often matters more than truth, and perception wasn't kind to Depp during those years. The noise surrounding his personal life grew louder than anything else. It wasn't about artistry anymore. It was about scandal. Court battles filled the headlines, and the media latched onto every detail, dissecting his relationships, his private struggles, his every move. Tabloids and entertainment news outlets treated his life like an endless series, where each new headline was the next shocking episode. The public wasn't watching his performances on screen. They were watching performance of his downfall, staged daily by the press. For fans who had grown up with his work, it was devastating. They had followed him from his earliest days on 21 Jump Street, through his iconic roles with Tim Burton, to the massive cultural phenomenon of Pirates of the Caribbean. For them, Johnny wasn't just another actor. He was an artist who had given them characters that felt larger than life, performances that were unforgettable, and moments of cinematic magic that shaped their own memories of growing up. To watch him fade from the world of movies into the glare of tabloid headlines felt like losing something personal. It was as if a part of their own story had been stripped away. And beneath it all was a question no one wanted to ask out loud, but everyone thought at some point. Was Johnny Depp gone for good as an actor? Could he ever return to the heights he once commanded? Or had Hollywood quietly decided to move on? The machine that is a film industry rarely slows down. New stars rise every year. Studios invest in the next generation, and the cycle keeps spinning. For an actor who had been a household name for decades, the idea of being left behind seemed unthinkable. And yet, it was happening right in front of the world's eyes. The silence was deafening. Years passed without the kind of transformative roles that once defined his career. Festivals that once rolled out the red carpet with excitement now hesitated. Award shows, once eager to showcase his presence, seemed distant. For an artist whose career was built on unpredictability, the predictable absence of Johnny Depp in the cinematic conversation was glaring. And yet, during this fall from Hollywood's graces, something else was happening, quietly but powerfully. His absence didn't erase him from the hearts of his most loyal fans. In fact, it only made their support more vocal. While the industry distanced itself, fans filled the void with their own voices, creating communities online that celebrated his past performances and defended his name. Social media trends, hashtags, and countless fan edits of his greatest roles kept him alive in the cultural conversation, even when the film industry seemed to turn away. But still, for the world at large, it was a time marked by uncertainty. For Johnny himself, it must have been a strange and isolating moment. Here was a man who had once stood as one of the most in-demand actors on the planet, someone who turned every risky choice into art, now painted into a corner by the weight of public perception. And unlike the characters he played on screen, outsiders, misfits, rebels, this wasn't a role he could slip out of when the cameras stopped rolling. This was real. This was his life, laid bare in front of millions. The fall wasn't about losing talent. It wasn't about audiences no longer caring about his artistry. It was about Hollywood's cold reality. Reputations are fragile, and in a business built on image, once the narrative shifts, it can feel impossible to reclaim. That's why the silence was so striking. Every year without a defining role, every red carpet absence, every project lost reinforced the fear that maybe the Johnny Depp era had ended. But while the industry hesitated, the hunger for his return only grew stronger. Fans whispered the same question critics debated, a question that lingered like a shadow over every headline. Would Johnny Depp ever step back in the light of cinema, or was this truly the end of one of Hollywood's most remarkable careers? Johnny Depp's return to cinema isn't just another headline about an actor taking on a new role. This moment carries weight, resonance, and symbolism that stretches far beyond a casting announcement. In Hollywood, not all comebacks are created equal. Some feel manufactured, designed to spark interest or test the waters. Others carry the spark of something deeper, something that speaks not just to a career, but to a legacy. And Depp's reemergence falls firmly into that latter category. Because here's the truth. Some talents are simply too great to erase. For all the headlines, for all the speculation, for all the noise that threatened to drown out his artistry, Johnny Depp's body of work has always remained like an undercurrent, quietly reminding people the depth he brought to the screen. His performances were never about blending in. They were about standing out, about creating characters that felt like living, breathing worlds of their own. That kind of artistry doesn't vanish. It waits, it lingers, and when the right moment comes, it surges back into the light. What makes this return so significant is not just that Depp is working again. It's the way he has chosen to return. He hasn't aligned himself with a safe franchise designed to guarantee a box office payday. He hasn't picked a project that screams damage control or a desperate bid to win mainstream approval. Instead, he's chosen to step into the world of Terry Gilliam, a director who has built a career on breaking rules, bending reality, and refusing to play it safe. That decision alone sends a message, a signal to the world. Johnny Depp's return is not about comfort. It's about art. Terry Gilliam isn't the kind of filmmaker who attracts actors looking for an easy ride. His worlds are chaotic, unpredictable, often messy, and always daring. His films demand risk, demand surrender, demand a willingness to step into the unknown. For an actor, working with Gilliam isn't about following a script. It's about diving into a storm and trusting that the chaos will turn into something unforgettable. By choosing Gilliam, Depp is making it clear that he's not interested in walking the safe, well-lit path back into Hollywood's good graces. He wants a difficult road, the risky road, the road that could redefine him. And that is why this comeback matters so much. Because the partnership between Depp and Gilliam feels almost poetic. Both men are outsiders in their own way. Both have faced years of doubt, resistance, and rejection from the very system that once celebrated them. Gilliam has spent decades battling studios, losing projects, seeing visions collapse under the weight of bad luck and impossible odds. Depp, too, has felt the sting of being written off, of being labeled too risky or too complicated. Yet both are still standing, both refusing to be erased, and both ready to prove that resilience can be just as powerful as talent. In many ways, Gilliam is the perfect mirror for Depp's journey. Think about the man who killed Don Quixote, Gilliam's passion project that became infamous for its endless setbacks. Casts changed, financing collapsed, natural disasters interfered. It became known as one of the most cursed productions in cinema history. For decades, people laughed at the idea that it would ever be made. But Gilliam didn't quit. He kept pushing year after year, until finally, against all odds, the film came to life. That story of relentless determination feels like a reflection of Depp's own path. For years, people doubted his career would recover. For years, the headlines painted him as finished. And yet, here he is, stepping back into the arena with the same stubborn defiance that kept Gilliam's dreams alive. The symbolism of this reunion runs deeper than most people realize. Depp was once attached to play the lead role in Gilliam's The Man Who Killed Don Quixote long before it finally made it to screen. Circumstances tore that opportunity away, but now fate has circled back, bringing them together once more. In a way, this collaboration feels like unfinished business, like a story that was interrupted and is finally getting the ending it deserves. And it speaks volumes that Gilliam, a director who chooses his actors based not on popularity but on their ability to inhabit his strange, daring worlds, still believes in Depp. That belief matters. In Hollywood, reputations rise and fall, often at the mercy of public opinion. But when a filmmaker like Gilliam puts his trust in an actor, it isn't about gossip or perception. It's about ability. It's about vision. It's about knowing who can step into the madness and emerge with something magical. Gilliam's faith in Depp signals that, for those who truly understand the craft, Depp has never lost his edge. And so this comeback becomes more than a career move. It becomes a statement. It's a declaration that Johnny Depp is not here to fade quietly into the background or settle for safe choices. He is here to remind the world of the kind of artist he has always been. An artist drawn to risk. An artist unafraid of chaos. An artist who thrives in the spaces where rules break down and imagination takes over. By returning in a Gilliam film, Depp is reclaiming his place not just in Hollywood, but in the world of cinema as a true original. Someone who cannot be replicated, replaced, or forgotten. To understand why Johnny Depp's return with Terry Gilliam carries so much weight, you first have to understand the kind of world Gilliam creates. He isn't a filmmaker who lives by Hollywood's rules. In fact, he has spent much of his career fighting against them. His films are chaotic, surreal, and often difficult to categorize. They don't fit neatly into genres or formulas, and they rarely play it safe. Gilliam's cinema is a rebellion in itself, a refusal to conform, and that is exactly why actors like Depp are drawn to him. Take Brazil, for example. Released in 1985, it wasn't just another dystopian film. It was a haunting, nightmarish vision of a future so absurd and so familiar that audiences were both unsettled and mesmerized. Gilliam painted a world where bureaucracy and madness blended into something terrifyingly recognizable, and he did it with a style that no other director could mimic. It was messy, bold, and uncompromising. A film that didn't just tell a story, but challenged the very system that produced it. That's Gilliam's signature. To create art that doesn't just entertain, but unsettles, provokes, and lingers. Then there's 12 Monkeys. At first glance, it was a science fiction thriller about time travel. But in Gilliam's hands, it became something more, a study of madness, paranoia, and human fragility. Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt delivered performances unlike anything audiences had seen from before, precisely because Gilliam pushed them into territory that was dangerous and unpolished. He thrives in that space, the uncomfortable, the unpredictable, where actors must let go of safety and dive into the deep end. And then there's the legend of the man who killed Don Quixote. Few films in history have been plagued with so much bad luck. Production shut down multiple times. Sets were destroyed by floods. Actors came and went. Financing collapsed. For decades, it became a running joke in the industry, a symbol of impossibility. And yet Gilliam refused to let it die. For him, the dream was worth the fight, no matter how long it took. He clung to it with a kind of stubbornness that mirrored Don Quixote himself, an aging dreamer charging at windmills, unwilling to accept defeat. It was a story cursed before it was even born, but Gilliam never stopped believing. Doesn't that sound familiar? The echoes between Gilliam's artistic journey and Depp's personal one are almost uncanny. Both men have been written off. Both have been mocked, doubted, and dismissed as relics of the past. And yet both have something in common that makes them impossible to erase. They refuse to give up. Gilliam fought for decades to bring a doomed project to life. Depp, after years of silence and speculation, is stepping back into the arena, reminding the world that his artistry was never gone. It was simply waiting for the right stage to return. And here's the twist that makes this collaboration even more powerful. Depp was once supposed to be part of the man who killed Don Quixote. Long before the film finally came together with Adam Driver, Depp was Gilliam's choice to play the role. Circumstances, as they often do in Gilliam's chaotic productions, ripped that chance away. But the creative bond between the two men didn't vanish. It lingered unfinished, like a story waiting to be told. Their reunion now feels almost fated, as if the universe has circled back to give them both another shot at creating something extraordinary together. What makes Gilliam such a compelling director for Depp at this stage of his career is that he doesn't cast actors to play it safe. He doesn't pick names for their box office draw or their public image. He picks them because they fit into his strange, dreamlike worlds. Gilliam sees beyond reputation and beyond gossip. He looks for artists who can survive his chaos, who can thrive in it, who can give themselves over to the unpredictability of his vision. By choosing Depp again, Gilliam is making a statement that he still sees in Johnny the raw, untamed artistry that made him a star in the first place. For Depp, stepping into a Gilliam project now is more than just a career move. It's a reminder of who he has always been as an artist. From the earliest days of his career, Depp was never interested in safe choices. He didn't want to be just another heartthrob coasting on looks and easy roles. He wanted to dive into characters that were strange, eccentric, and unforgettable. Gilliam's world demands exactly that kind of spirit. They require actors who embrace the bizarre, who are willing to look ridiculous, broken, or unhinged if it serves the art. That's the kind of work Depp has always excelled at, and it's the kind of work that can remind the world of his true power. In many ways, Gilliam and Depp together represent the same thing: resilience through chaos. Gilliam has spent his career wrestling with systems bigger than himself. Studios, budgets, impossible productions. Depp has spent the last decade wrestling with a narrative bigger than himself. The endless headlines, the court battles, the rumors. Both have endured storms that could have ended them. But both have chosen to rise again, not by conforming, not by apologizing to the system, but by staying true to what makes them unique. And that is why their reunion feels so significant. Because when Gilliam and Depp work together, it isn't just about creating a film. It's about two survivors stepping back into the fire, two dreamers refusing to quit, two rebels daring to show the world that chaos doesn't destroy art, it fuels it. Through all the noise, all the headlines, and all the speculation, there was one constant in Johnny Depp's story: his fans. While Hollywood hesitated and the media fueled controversy, the people who had grown up with his films never stopped believing. And it's here, in the unwavering loyalty of millions, that this comeback truly finds its heartbeat. Johnny Depp's career has always been marked by a deep connection with audiences. From the early days when he transformed from a teen idol on 21 Jump Street into an actor willing to take bold risks, fans were there, following each unpredictable turn. They didn't just watch him, they invested in him. They embraced Edward Scissorhands not just as a character, but as a symbol of outsider beauty. They laughed with Captain Jack Sparrow, not as a cartoonish pirate, but as a legend who broke every rule of what a blockbuster hero should be. And they saw in him something that went beyond fame. They saw an artist. So when the storms came, when the headlines grew darker than the screen, his fans didn't walk away. Instead, they doubled down. Outside the courtrooms, they lined up, holding signs, showing support, chanting his name as if to remind the world that no matter what the media said, Johnny Depp wasn't alone. Online, entire communities formed. Hashtags trended. Videos resurfaced. Compilations of his greatest performances were shared endlessly. In an industry that often measures relevance by headlines and numbers, fans kept him alive in the conversation. They made sure his name didn't vanish. And this loyalty was not passive. It was active, loud, and relentless. Every time new rumors emerged, fans countered them with clips of his artistry. Every time a project slipped away, fans speculated, hoped, and pushed for his return. In a digital era where visibility often determined survival, it was the fans who kept Johnny visible, refusing to let the narrative be written entirely by those who sought to erase him. This kind of loyalty is rare in Hollywood. Many actors, when scandal strikes, find themselves abandoned almost overnight. Studios distance themselves. Public opinion turns cold. Audiences move on to the next star in line. But With Johnny, it was different. His fan base didn't shrink. It grew louder. And that says something profound about the bond he built with them over decades. His performances weren't disposable entertainment. They became part of people's lives, their memories, their sense of identity. Losing him from cinema felt personal, like losing a piece of themselves. What makes this even more extraordinary is the sheer scale of their influence. Social media has changed the way comebacks work. In another era, Hollywood executives could quietly close the door on a star, and that might have been the end. But today, when millions of fans flood timelines of support, when hashtags trend globally within minutes, when online voices echo louder than official statements, the power dynamic shifts. Fans become a force that Hollywood cannot ignore. And time after time, Johnny supporters proved just how strong that force was. Photos of him, whether from a public event, a festival appearance, or even just candid moments, spread like wildfire, generating more buzz and studio-backed campaigns. Every rumor of a potential project became an instant trending topic. Even whispers of collaborations dominated news cycles, not because of official announcements, but because fans made them impossible to overlook. It's important to understand what this means for his comeback. In many ways, it isn't just Johnny Depp returning to cinema. It's his fans pulling him back into it. They defended his name when others attacked it. They carried his legacy through years when Hollywood was silent. And now, as he steps back into the spotlight, it feels like a shared victory. His comeback is their comeback. But loyalty alone isn't the only story here. There's something deeper at play. Fans weren't just standing by a movie star. They were standing by a man whose characters had given them hope, escape, and joy. For decades, Johnny's roles often embodied outsiders, rebels, and dreamers, the very people who don't fit neatly into society's boxes. Audiences connected with that, perhaps more than they realized. And Wade became an outsider himself. When the industry seemed to push him to the margins, his fans understood. Supporting him wasn't just about defending an actor. It was about defending what he represented. That emotional connection makes this moment feel different. It's not only about whether a studio believes in him again, or whether critics will embrace his next role. It's about millions of voices who never stopped believing in him, finally seeing that belief validated. Every step of this return feels amplified by their presence, by the knowledge that they fought to keep his artistry alive when so many wanted to write it off. And that's why, as Johnny Depp prepares to re-enter cinema with Terry Gilliam, it doesn't feel like a solitary comeback. It feels collective. The roar of fans that once echoed outside courtrooms now transforms into anticipation for his next performance. Their faith, their loyalty, and their persistence have helped bring him here. And in many ways, they are as much a part of this story as a director who casts him or the studio that funds a project. Because when the headlines fade, when the gossip is forgotten, what remains is the bond between an artist and the people who believe in him. And in Johnny Depp's case, that bond has never been stronger. For every loyal fan who never stopped believing in Johnny Depp, there are just as many voices whispering a different question. Will audiences really welcome him back? That question lingers in every discussion about his return. Hollywood is a place where reputations matter, where perception shapes opportunity. And after years of headlines that weren't about his artistry, the doubt was inevitable. Could he still draw a crowd? Could he still hold the screen with the same intensity that once made him unforgettable? Or had the industry and the public quietly moved on? The doubt didn't come from nowhere. Hollywood has always had a short memory. It rewards success lavishly but rarely forgives scandal, even when the truth is murky. In the years when Depp wasn't dominating the box office, a new generation of stars rose up to fill the vacuum. Studios, cautious as ever, shifted their investments elsewhere. Critics questioned whether he still had the same magnetism, or whether time and turbulence had dulled his spark. And in conversations across the industry, the phrase, "too risky," began to appear next to his name far too often. Yet, while Hollywood insiders debated his future, something curious was happening out in the world. Every time Johnny Depp appeared in public, the reaction told a very different story. Photos of him, sometimes simple snapshots at a festival, other times appearances at concerts or charity events, spread across social media like wildfire. Within hours, Hashtags trended. Within days, the images were shared millions of times, dissected, celebrated, adored. It wasn't just casual interest. It was proof that the hunger for Depp hadn't faded at all. And this wasn't limited to fans in the past clinging to nostalgia. Younger audiences, people who hadn't grown up with Edward Scissorhands or Donnie Brasco, who only knew him as Captain Jack Sparrow, or perhaps from cult performances like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, were equally captivated. For them, Johnny Depp wasn't a relic. He was a legend who had never truly disappeared. That kind of intergenerational fascination is rare and it's powerful. It means his appeal stretches across decades, uniting audiences in a way few actors ever achieve. The answer to doubters also lies in something harder to quantify: presence. Great actors aren't just remembered for the roles they play. They're remembered for the way they command attention. And Depp, for all the chaos surrounding him, never lost that. Even in interviews, even in moments when he wasn't trying to perform, there was something magnetic about him. A spark, a sense of unpredictability. The kind of energy that can't be manufactured. The kind of energy that keeps people watching simply because they don't know what he'll do next. That presence doesn't fade with time. It doesn't vanish because of headlines. It remains, waiting for the right role to bring it roaring back. Still, some skeptics point at numbers. Will his film still open big at the box office? Will streaming audiences still click play? The irony is that the evidence is already there. Whenever Depp is associated with a new project, the internet reacts instantly. Rumors about casting spread, like breaking news. Articles featuring his name outperform expectations. Fan speculation build before a single trailer is released. In today's digital-driven industry, this kind of cultural pull is invaluable. Studios spend millions trying to generate the kind of buzz that seems to follow Depp naturally. And if history teaches us anything, it's that doubted actors can come back bigger than ever. Robert Downey Jr. was once considered untouchable in the worst way. Too unreliable, too controversial, too risky. But one role, one chance, changed everything. Matthew McConaughey, long dismissed as a rom-com lightweight, stunned audiences when he reinvented himself with daring, dramatic performances. Hollywood is full of stories where the doubted become the celebrated once again. The difference is that Depp isn't starting from scratch. He's returning with decades of iconic roles behind him, roles that shape culture, roles that refuse to be forgotten. And that's what makes the whispers of doubt feel almost misplaced, because the truth is visible for anyone paying attention. When Johnny Depp steps onto a stage, the cameras follow. When he appears in public, headlines are written. When his name is attached to a project, the conversation shifts. That doesn't happen to someone irrelevant. That doesn't happen to someone the world has moved on from. That happens to legends. The real answer to the question, can Johnny Depp still draw a crowd? Can he still hold the screen? Can he still matter in cinema? Is already written in the reactions of people who see him. It's in the thunderous applause at festivals. It's in the millions of shares online. It's in the quiet loyalty of fans who never left, and the curiosity of younger audiences who want to see what he'll do next. The evidence is everywhere, if you know where to look. And as Depp prepares to step into a new role with Terry Gilliam, the whispers of doubt may remain, but the response grows louder every day. The answer isn't in the speculation of critics or the caution of studios. The answer is in the undeniable pull of a man whose artistry has already proven timeless. When an actor steps back into the spotlight after years of turbulence, the choice of project becomes everything. It's not just about working again. It's about defining how the world will see them. For Johnny Depp, the decision to reunite with Terry Gilliam isn't coincidence. It's strategy, it's artistry, and it's a statement. Hollywood has always been full of offers for Depp. Even in the darkest moments of speculation, there were projects he could have signed on to, roles in formulaic thrillers, commercial franchises, or international productions that would have paid him handsomely. But comebacks aren't about money. They're about legacy. Choosing the wrong project risks confirming the doubts. Choosing the right one can rewrite everything. Look back at the great comebacks in Hollywood history. Robert Downey Jr. didn't just take any role when he returned from the brink. He became Tony Stark, and in doing so, reshaped his image and launched one of the biggest franchises of all time. Matthew McConaughey didn't fade into obscurity with more romantic comedies. He dove into bold dramatic work that earned him an Oscar and the respect of critics. One choice turned the tide. Depp knows this. He's always been deliberate in his choices. From the very beginning of his career, he avoided the easy path. He could have coasted as a teen idol, but instead he chose characters that were eccentric, risky, and unforgettable. That instinct hasn't left him, it's sharpened. And Gilliam represents everything about the kind of art Depp has always valued. Chaos, creativity, risk. By stepping into this world again, he's proving that his return isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about staying true to the kind of artistry that made him an icon. This isn't about easing back into Hollywood quietly. It's about stepping back in loudly, with a role that demands attention. The Gilliam project may not be the safest bet commercially, but it is the boldest bet artistically. And that's what makes it powerful. It tells the world that Depp isn't afraid to gamble, because his artistry is worth the risk. Johnny Depp has never been the kind of actor who played it safe. From the earliest days, he seemed almost allergic to predictability. Where others chase heartthrob roles and box office formulas, Depp chased the strange, the eccentric, the impossible. That's why his characters became more than performances. They became landmarks. Edward Scissorhands should never have worked on paper. A man with blades for fingers, an outsider fairy tale set against suburbia, yet Depp turned it into one of the most hauntingly beautiful roles in modern cinema. Captain Jack Sparrow was doubted by executives who thought his staggering, slurred pirate would sink Pirates of the Caribbean. Instead, he became a cultural phenomenon, a role so iconic it earned him an Oscar nomination. Even in films that confused critics, like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, his choices lingered in memory, unforgettable precisely because they were bold. This is a pattern of his career. Reinvention through risk. Depp has never allowed himself to be typecast. He has shifted from romantic outsider to psychedelic trickster, from gothic dreamer to blockbuster swashbuckler. Each reinvention reminded audiences that he was more than a star. He was an artist willing to gamble everything for a role. That history matters now more than ever, because as he returns, he doesn't have to convince audiences he can transform. He's already proven it countless times. All he needs is one role, one moment, to remind the world of the power of risk. And Gilliam, with his chaotic, rule-breaking cinema, offers exactly that opportunity. Depp's entire career has been about betting on the impossible and making it unforgettable. Why would his comeback be any different? There's a poetry in Johnny Depp and Terry Gilliam reuniting now. Two outsiders, both scarred by years of battles, both underestimated, both still standing. It isn't just casting, it's symbolism. Gilliam represents rebellion against the system. For decades, he fought studios, clashed with executives, and pushed projects forward even when budgets collapsed. His career is proof that vision can survive chaos. Depp's recent years mirror that same defiance, fighting against the narratives written about him, enduring the silence of Hollywood, and refusing to vanish. Together, they represent resilience. Gilliam choosing Depp now is no small thing. He doesn't hire actors for safety or PR. He hires them because they belong in his strange worlds. By choosing Depp, Gilliam is saying clearly he still sees in him the artistry that made him great. And for Depp, stepping into a Gilliam film is an act of rebellion too. He isn't chasing a safe comeback role or trying to win over skeptics with something conventional. He's embracing chaos, embracing risk, embracing the very thing that defines him. Their collaboration feels almost mythic. Unfinished business from the past, now given new life at exactly the moment both men need it most. It's more than art. It's a statement of defiance. A reminder that even in an industry that loves predictability, there's still room for rebels. Hollywood runs on momentum. One strong role, one acclaimed performance can shift everything. For Johnny Depp, this Gilliam project has the potential to open floodgates. Imagine the reviews. Critics praising his performance, calling it strongest in years. Imagine the headlines shifting, from courtrooms to red carpets, from speculation to admiration. Imagine the festival buzz, the award conversations, The excitement of seeing Depp not as a scandal but as an artist reborn. That kind of momentum spreads quickly in Hollywood. Suddenly, directors who stayed quiet start calling. Studios who hesitated come back with offers. The doors swing open again. It only takes one role to spark a renaissance. We've seen it before. Robert Downey Jr. became Iron Man and went from liability to legend. Matthew McConaughey went from rom-com typecast to Oscar winner. Mickey Rourke's performance in The Wrestler reignited his career. One role changes the narrative. One role rewrites the story. For Depp, the ripple effect could be massive. He doesn't just have the talent. He has the fan base, the cultural footprint, and the history of iconic roles behind him. With momentum on his side, the Depp Renaissance could define the next decade of his career. A new era, a rebirth, a reminder of why he mattered in the first place. When Johnny Depp steps back onto the screen, it won't just be about entertainment. It will be about survival, about resilience, about refusing to disappear when the world tried to erase you. His career has always been about transformation, about embodying the outsiders and misfits, about showing that beauty can exist in the strange. And now, his own life mirrors that story. The comeback isn't about proving critics wrong. It's about proving fans right, the ones who stood by him, who defended him, who believed he wasn't finished. It's about giving them back the artist they always knew was still there, and it's about reclaiming the narrative, shifting it from scandal to artistry, from noise to cinema. Years from now, when people look back on Johnny Depp's career, they won't just talk about the turbulence. They'll talk about the return. They'll talk about how, against all odds, he found his way back, with a director who understood him, with fans who never left, with the kind of artistry that never dies. And maybe, just maybe, they'll call it what it deserves to be called, the Depp Renaissance. Johnny Depp's journey has never been simple, never been ordinary. It's been filled with risks, reinventions, storms, and triumphs. And now, as he steps back into the spotlight with Terry Gilliam, the world waits to see if this is a moment that reshapes his legacy, the beginning of what fans are already calling the Depp Renaissance. But what do you think? Is this Johnny's Iron Man moment? The role that will silence the critics once and for all? Or do you see this as just a first spark in a bigger fire that's still come? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comment below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Johnny Depp's incredible story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel Story Spot, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next video. Up next, we'll be breaking down Johnny's most iconic roles and why they still matter today. You won't want to miss it.